initiative. And now, please welcome to the stage Yoko K. Sen.
Hi, good evening. How are you? Good. How many of you marched today for the science? Some of you, yes, wonderful. So now you marched for science. We are going to explore where science meets art and some miracle happens. So my name is Yoko. I am an ambient electronic musician, and I'm working on an initiative to transform the sound environment in hospitals and healthcare. And for today, I'm really excited to be working with Kennedy Center's Sound Health Initiative to put together this really exciting evening. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my husband and a co-moderator for the panel, Avery Sen, and the wonderful panelists on stage, Nick Dawson, Jessica Phillips Silva, and Sonia Rose. Please welcome them on stage.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'll be the moderator. First, I'll do a little bit of introductions. So let's go. We'll go first here to Yoko's left is Nick Dawson. Yeah. Fanboys in the audience. So Nick Dawson is the executive director of the Johns Hopkins Sibley Innovation Hub, where he is a proponent of human-centered design in healthcare as a way to create a health system which is more desirable, compassionate, and advanced. Nick is also the chair of the executive board for Stanford's Medicine X program, a catalyst for innovation, patient empowerment, and advances in academic medicine. He's the past president of the Society for Participatory Medicine. His past roles include hospital leadership of departments including strategy, finance, and operations. Nick has participated in a variety of national level healthcare discussions, including facilitating the White House and USAID's design challenge to improve protective equipment worn by Ebola aid workers. And how do you know Nick,
Yes.
Yoko?
So Nick is somebody who really opened the doors. Something is falling.
It's a little bit of magic here.
Opened the doors for this field when I just kind of stumbled onto this healthcare innovation field. And at the Sibley Innovation Hub, there are so many really interesting things that's making a difference and changing the culture of healthcare really from the ground. So I'm really happy that you could join. Thank you.
Next, we have Jessica Phillips Silver. Jessica is a cognitive neuroscientist and researcher at the Department of Neuroscience at Georgetown University Medical Center and an adjunct professor at Georgetown's Faculty of Music. She is also the founder of Growing Brains, a brain-based approach to raising children and communities. Jessica earned her Bachelor's of Humanities and Arts in Psychology and Music from Carnegie Mellon University. She has a PhD in Auditory Development and Music Perception from McMaster University, and conducted her postdoc research in the International Laboratory of Brain, Music, and Sound in Montreal. Jessica's original research examines how feeling the beat in music is a multisensory experience from infancy through adulthood. And she documented the first case of the musical disorder beat deafness. Very interesting. Yoko, how do you know Jessica?
Yeah, so when I got to know you, I think the first time I saw you was when you were presenting at Georgetown. And you are like my dream come true, that, you are a musician, you are a scientist, and you're a yoga teacher. Where we get together, we can't really get to project because we just talk about everything. So I'm just really excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Sonia Rhodes. Sonia is the Chief Experience Officer for the Advisory Board Company and the founder of the Experience Lab, an innovative incubator of ideas and accelerator of action created to bring the experience design principles to the healthcare industry. Sonia was first in the nation to serve as a healthcare executive responsible for experience and culture transformation. She incorporated experience design principles across Sharp Healthcare's 30-plus locations and 18,000-plus team members, and helped Sharp earn a Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. That's very cool. It's part of the Department of Commerce where I used to work. It's the nation's highest presidential honor for organization excellence. Sonia was co-author of The Complete Guide to Transforming the Patient Experience and is an Emmy award-winning producer of the television documentary series Stories of the Sharp Experience. She's also the inaugural recipient of the Experience Management Achievement Award. Very cool. So yeah, how do you know Sonia?
Yeah, so in December, I was a part of this really amazing, unusual, it's not even a conference, event at Guggenheim Museum. And it was a healthcare experience and design kind of an event, and lots of executives, but lots of artists and really provocative stuff happening. And I just thought you are really brave that, to combine the arts with, not just the regular population, but like hospital executives. And they are, they are really moved. And so when I got today's opportunity, I could just, do a performance, but I thought about you, and I thought, since we have this wonderful collaboration with Kennedy Center, let's just do something. So thank you for your inspiration.
Thank you.
We were going to have Susanna Fox on the panel with us. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it today, so we have three other wonderful panelists here. So let's.
And she just joined the board of advisors for our company, Sen Sound. So you will get to see her sometime soon. But she's such a wonderful supporter. Yes.
But yeah, so now that we all know who you are, maybe you guys could give us a few minutes to tell us about yourself in your own words, about your work. And more particularly, what's been your creative journey, and how's that led you here to be the professional you are today? Maybe Nick starts.
Great. Well, first of all, I think that starting with a round of applause is probably the only time I'm ever going to get applause at the Kennedy Center. And if I just stop right now and leave, my mother would be very proud. And I'm grateful for everybody for braving the rain today. And I was thinking about our discussion about art and healthcare, and I have a background in hospital administration with a degree in hospital administration and finance, and I'm a pretty big tech nerd. And I think all of that makes me uniquely unqualified to be here today. I think if you ever want to document a second case of beat deafness, I'd be more than happy to volunteer for a study. And this is probably the closest to musical instruments that I should be. But I think if we extrapolate, if we expand the notion of art more broadly, and certainly that's probably why we're all here today, to think very broadly about art, then I feel a little more comfortable in this space. And one of the things we've been very focused on in the teams that I'm privileged to work with is thinking about how do we bring full people to healthcare. Healthcare is inherently very scientific oriented, especially when we think about how it's delivered in the hospital setting or in a doctor's office. But people that get healthcare are not just scientists, they're people with full, rich lives, and the people that deliver it are people with full, rich lives. And maybe it's a little bit fanciful to say this, but the idea of thinking about health and health organizations as a canvas upon which to create art kind of gave me some thinking as we were planning for today. And I had one other thought that went along with it, and I saw some shows of hands for people that went to the march today, braved the weather out there as well. I saw the most incredible sign that made me think a lot. I saw a sign that said, "Science, religion, and art are not mutually exclusive." And it made me think about how we are inherently wired for dichotomy. Our brains are split into two halves, and some of us are right-handed and some of us are left-handed. And if I give you a ruler with no numbers on it, and I said divide it in half, you'd easily be able to pick out the 6-inch mark in the middle. It's a function of having two eyes that's connected to two halves of a brain. And it's the same function that lets artists who would know how to do this, and I'm mocking or imitating, do this move and be able to pick up depth perception. It's the thing that allows us to see different layers of the body in an MRI, while it let Monet see the different layers of an image when he was painting water lilies. And I started thinking about that and how that idea that in healthcare we get so focused on the science part, and we forget about the other half that everybody has, that's the humanity part. And to me, that there's this whole opportunity and there's this whole discussion about making it more human to augment that part that we already do so incredibly well from the science side on the life side.
Fantastic. Jessica?
Okay, well, in my work, I study the brain, specifically the musical brain. And I came to this because I've always studied music. And when I was studying music as a child, and even still, I was very nerdy about it. And I always, as I was practicing, rehearsing, performing, or coaching students, I was always stuck wondering how the brain was allowing this all to happen. And then I decided that led me into science, into research about the brain, and it caused kind of an identity complex, actually, because when I was in the music conservatory, I was really way too nerdy for my surroundings. But when I'm in the science lab, I'm way too artistic for them to handle or comprehend. And so I've always had quite a bit of an identity complex, never really belonging or fitting in. And then eventually realized that it wasn't my job to fit in, but the brain is whole. I'm going to take a slightly different tactic. I don't look at the two halves. I actually look at how it's working functionally and what makes us whole. And so I realized that for me, my direction and my passion was seeing the connection, seeing the relationships. And so as a student of science and music, I had an epiphany at one point, and I realized in music rehearsal that there was something happening in the brain, and I thought I knew what it was, and it was really a revelation. And so I went to the library to find out who had discovered this. And I spent 2 weeks in the library unsuccessfully because I could never find out. I couldn't find a piece of literature that explained this, and that made me realize that somebody needed to do that work, and that's my work now. And so that's my creative journey, is finding the nexus between the science and the art, understanding how the brain allows us to do those things. And really the reason that I'm here today with you all and doing this work is because I'm interested in, with that knowledge, coming to a better understanding of how to be well, all of us, how to be whole. So that applies to healthcare, of course, but it applies to our lives every single day, from the moment we wake up, every choice that we make, how we dedicate ourselves to our work, to our entire lives, how we raise our children, our grandchildren, how we care for one another. So that's, for me, that's the reason that I'm here, and it's a big part of my personal journey.
Great, thank you. Sonia?
I'm nothing like those other two. And I'm not sure why I'm here. Actually, I am sure why I'm here. I think we're magnetically drawn to this work. But I fell into my work of experience design perhaps the way that some of you might too, and you could inform our work. I'd been working in healthcare for a decade and was telling the story of hospitals and health systems to the community. And my dad ended up visiting on a vacation and ended up in an ambulance right into our flagship hospital. And I thought, oh, thank goodness, if something's going to go wrong, at least he's here. And then I spent 8 days as an observer of the moments and the interactions and the experience. And they saved his life, but they scarred all of our lives. That experience was so devastating at the lack of humanity, the lack of wholeness, and the lack of connection to what mattered to us as people, to my dad on his healing journey, and quite frankly, to the caregivers with each other. There was this missing component, and I became obsessed with making healthcare better, of studying and exploring and looking outside the industry to see if we could find answers, and coming back to the industry to see if we could pull from science, and realizing that transforming healthcare and the culture of caring would have to be a marriage of art and science, and that we would have to allow people to elevate their work every day, whether that's the people who help you with the business of healthcare and your insurance, or those who are in that caring space, right, with you in that sacred space of caring, that if we elevated those moments to a personal work of art, that we really could start to change people's lives, the people that choose that path of caring and the hard work of being a physician or caregiver, and those who entrust their lives and their life stories and their life memories to all of us. So for 20 years, I've been obsessed. I feel like it's a forever journey. I don't think there's an official answer, but we're discovering every day that we can use a new lens of humanity to design our healthcare experiences versus to allow them to happen by default. And so that's where I spend all of my time in hospitals, healthcare centers, and clinics, helping redesign, reimagine, and reawaken new possibilities in healthcare.
Fantastic. So that actually, you're talking about what matters to you, really kind of feeds into the first question we have in earnest. It's an easy one to start. Does art matter? That's the question. And I'll play the skeptic here. I think, yeah, maybe people will say it's great for self-actualization, but, when push comes to shove, really what's important is to get, your survival and security taken care of first. No? Is that not what you think?
That's not true.
Is that not true?
That's not true. Yeah, like my friend Frankie in the audience, he told me several weeks ago that art teaches us why it matters to be alive. You know what Winston Churchill said when they were, having a war, and people told him to cut that funding on the arts. Like, then why are we fighting for? That's but that's what I think. What do you guys think?
So I think, Avery, to tug on that, I think I know where you're coming from, right? There's this notion of this critical moment where I'm in the emergency room or I'm in a hospital bed, and you want Dr. House to take the wheel, right? The art in front of you, the painting on the wall shouldn't matter compared to the thing that's coming through the IV pump. And I think it's a natural inclination to cut out some of the things that the people who don't necessarily value those things in that moment, they don't value them, right? But there's some other ways to look at it as well. And we know that the average time that a person gets with a doctor in the office is somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes. And every patient has a story. And if we thought of storytelling as a form of art, that ability to convey what's going on in your life and what matters to you is every bit as important as the clinical discussion that happens in that space. And I've certainly known patients who've said it is easier for me to show you photos or for me to create something that's physical that represents my pain or my disease. And I could see that being a really valuable clinical tool.
I see Sonia nodding really, really heartfully there.
Well, for me, I like to broaden that definition of art as well, and perhaps think of it in terms of beauty. And I think that sometimes we feel that there might not be space for beauty in those critical moments, but those moments have an orchestration to them and a choreography to them and a beauty when done well. That human connection is beautiful. And we can also think about the spaces in between as these very important moments where art can fill what feels like a void or a space of anxiety. If the doctor's in the room for 5 to 7 minutes, it's likely there's another 25 of waiting. And waiting alone in a stark room, really, we know, right? Rising your anxiety and your concern, and we can think differently about what happens when we're in a space and how can we make that more beautiful, whether that's the music, the art, what we see out the window or just how we interact with others in that space. I'm thinking about how embarrassed we were when we built a new hospital and forgot about, we were going to look out and over an old building, but forgot about the roof of that building, and yet the view was going to be out and over kind of an old roof with all the pipes and different things that happen there. And we realized that we could create something more artful and alive, so created a plantscape that happened to be a score of music that was Ode to Joy. And so Ode to Joy was played out with the plants, and we didn't really know what would happen, but it made us excited, the caregivers excited when they picked the music, and patients knew it instantly. And if they were musicians, it meant something to them. And then that spirit of joy, just by looking out the window, was a very different artful moment for them.
But can you measure it?
So
No, I want to give Jessica a sense, because I know that she's got
Yes.
a
You can
scientific perspective here to help me out.
You can find a way to measure whatever you'd like to. But my first question is, whoever said that art and music weren't critical to survival? Tell that to the parent of a prematurely born infant in the NICU who's hanging on. One day they say the child will make it, the next day the child won't, the next day the child will, and the parent is waiting to find out. And a nurse who has some intuition brings in some soothing music, or a musician comes in and plays for the child and for the child's parents, and the child hangs on. Tell that to somebody who's witnessing an elder relative who's lost all ability to communicate, lost language, lost recognition of their own family members, and then sing a song from that person's youth, and they sing along. So I don't know who came up with the idea that music and art are not critical to survival, but I don't buy it. And I think about this question from an evolutionary perspective. It's important to understand we are a human species. We're different from other species. And in our evolutionary history, we as we evolved, we became to live in larger and larger and larger groups. Okay? So in order to exist and work together in very, very large groups, I mean, you go from a tribe, a family, to, you know, a village, to here we are in D.C., right, or the United States of America. What brings us together and enables us to coexist? And that's the angle from which I study music and the musical brain. In other words, so I'm going to focus on music because that's my area, but it can be said of other art forms. For me, music is what brings us together in time. We can move to the same beat. We can synchronize our actions. We can build something together. We can accomplish something. We can warn off a predator. We accomplish our survival through working together. And it also enables us to come into a shared emotional experience. Again, without that, an infant would not bond to its mother. A community would not stay together and survive hardship. So traditionally in the area of brain science, it used to be thought for a long time that somehow language, verbal language, was critical to survival in our evolutionary history, but music was just what they called auditory cheesecake. We were just lucky to have it on the side, and that's no longer the story. Currently, the thinking is that we evolved to be a musical, artful, gestural species because we need to work together. We need to connect to thrive. And from that grew language, among other abilities.
I'll step out of character here for a second and say that I've heard it said, I don't know if it's true, but that poetry actually evolved before prose in our linguistic development as a species.
And one really prominent aspect of poetry is rhythm.
There's a really interesting bit of irony to pick up on. If you go in and ever have the opportunity to observe a surgery, every surgeon and usually a surgical team has a particular style of music or a particular artist or sometimes a particular album that they love to play. And there is a sense of team building that comes out of that. It sets the tone for the room. Some people it's classic rock and some people it's classical music, but it sets this rhythm for the procedures, right? And yet, from the patient's perspective, you're supposed to suffer in silence, literally in silence. And we don't give them that same option. it's a really interesting, the idea of team building is really powerful.
I think maybe we'll go to the next question. This one's on innovation, right? So a lot of us marched for science today. Popular culture says that science has a role in innovation. Design even has a role in innovation. The question is, does art have a role in innovation? And again, I'll play the skeptic here. Maybe art is more like basic research, or what they call fundamental research, which is that for any given project, yeah, it's possible that it'll have a big impact, but that given project is probably not going to have any impact.
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
What a surprise.
No. We're just talking about, artists' work can make innovation more human, right? I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
So I run an experience laboratory, which is a space of innovation for healthcare executives, hospital leaders, physician leaders, and I bring a team of executives from, right now we have 6 organizations from across the country, some of the largest, most prominent, most well-known, coming together to learn how to innovate. And we spend more of our time in an artful space than in a science space. And it's been fascinating how the arts can be metaphor as well as the actual componentry of what we do. Music, poetry. I was just telling Yoko last week that I had 26 executives that did not know each other down the street at Busboys and Poets, and we had a poetry slam, and they got to learn about a poetry slam, and then they were learning the art of on-stage leadership, that as a leader, people will follow us when we understand that we're being observed and are on stage, and they each had to write a poem in 5 minutes and then all perform them. And so, but it was, when they talk about everything we did over the course of a week, it was that moment on the stage having to write their own art and contribute to a collective that they say changed their thinking. It wasn't the expert that we took them to down the street or anything else, but it was that moment of their own artistry that I think really changed them most and opened them up to innovate in a different way.
Anyone else?
I mean, I think that they are in art and what we might call innovation, what we're calling design in this context, are one and the same. The best innovations that I know are made to provoke something, and you hope it's a good emotion, right? If you think about the things in your life that bring you a lot of joy, and I'm embarrassed to admit that, like, my smartphone is among that list of things for me, but it's really well designed and thought through, and that thing was made to make me feel some kind of joy or pride or sense of ownership. And there's lots of things in my life that are probably not so materialistic, but they're not in my pocket right now. So, but design and innovation is also inherently about vulnerability. And the best innovators and designers I know, regardless of the space, if it's healthcare, if it's anything, they're not tied up in the ego of the thing. They're tied up in making sure that it delivers something satisfying and delightful to the person they're trying to make it for. And that involves being vulnerable. And that's really antithetical to the way we normally run businesses. In most cases, health is a business. And that idea of saying, I am open to your feedback, and I want your feedback, and I want you to tell me everything that's wrong with this thing. Tell me everything that's wrong with the doctor's office or the clinical space, and I'm going to sand those rough edges down until I get it right, requires the same vulnerability that I think a lot of artists feel when they're creating something and putting it on stage or putting it on display and saying, now that it's in the world, tell me how you feel about it. And it's just, they're very much inherently the same. I think they both involve creativity. They both involve this idea of making, and when you make, you think, and when you start thinking, you make differently. There's a virtuous cycle in that. And
maybe even both involve the potential of upsetting somebody else, right?
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, I've spoken about delighting and bringing joy, but there are plenty of things that get invented or designed that might make somebody, just like art, just like a sculpture or a painting, could make me feel incredible and could make you feel concerned or upset, or vice versa. And very true.
Any thoughts, Jessica?
Yeah, so many. I love this idea of making and doing, because I think we, again, I'm going to take an evolutionary perspective here. We have evolved to make. We're supposed to be actively doing our lives, not sitting passively observing on our computer screen. And how many people here, regardless of what occupation you have, what you spend your time doing, how you invest as a contributing member of society, how many people have something that they do, that they make, that they create, that makes them feel whole or complete?
Show hands. That's close to everybody.
Regardless of what you spend your time, regardless of how you earn your living, let's say, or how you make your contribution, we all need to be doing and creating. Now, for me, studying the brain, understanding the human brain is a window into music for me, right? It's a way to understand the music that I've made, that I hear. But studying music is also a window into the brain and our potential. In other words, looking at art is one way in which we understand the capacity, the full potential of the human brain. And when I think about innovation, that's not my field, but when I think about innovation, I think about how we can do better, how we can live better. And one of the big questions that I think fascinates all of us is, what are we capable of? And examining art is one concrete, measurable, definable way to understand exactly what the human brain is capable of.
Can I ask her? I love her. She's amazing. But I'm just really curious. I'm finding, and maybe it's just healthcare, that's the industry I spend my time in, maybe it's every industry, but our thinking time has been squeezed out of our leading and our doing and our businesses. So that moment of reverie and imagining and exploring and what I would call mashing up, this idea and what might happen when they come together, those moments have been squeezed out of our day. And I'm finding I'm trying to bring those big ideas from other places in, but for me to bring those in and for them to stick, I have to marry them up with the arts. I have to bring a dancer and a poet or a singer or Yoko so that they can have a high science idea or some blockchain technology that might transform how we move data in healthcare. Very important. But to get them to really open up to what that might mean and that adjacent possible to that, also have an artist and a dancer that allows you to sit back and think and really bring it all together. Do you see that in your work as well?
Absolutely. I think that, there are different forms of data all around us, and we collect data in our respective jobs, and we use that data, that's our evidence collecting, to form our decisions and to solve our problems and to see connections and to see possibility, and sometimes frequently turning away from the problem at hand to something, let's say, metaphorical, something figurative, poetry, art, love is what enables us to come back and see the solution to the problem. Another, thought that I have listening to you is when you say that all of that precious thinking time, that incubating time, that time where things come together has been squeezed out. One of the models that I use in my life right now is when I want to know how is that supposed to be happening, watch a child. And I don't mean a child in school who's in science for 45 minutes and then they move to art for 45 minutes and then they're allowed 2.5 minutes of gym time and then they probably don't get any art, And I don't mean in that situation. I mean watch a child naturally just being, exploring the environment, working on something, doing. The child will be reasoning and having concrete sensory experiences, and they're developing their intellectual capacities, but that is happening through physical interaction with the world, through creation, through painting something, through telling a story, through acting out. And I think that sometimes I look at a child and I say to myself, we're still that. We just need to allow ourselves to do it and to live it. And when you watch a child, they solve problems more than we realize. They don't need us to give them all the answers. We would do well to observe children in their natural environment to better have an idea of how things naturally cross boundaries and categories and how information actually gets processed and how solutions come to be.
I'm thinking about all the corporate cultures I've ever seen, and that's true for any industry, but especially at the top of a lot of healthcare organizations. And the definition of success is often a day full of meetings, and it's meeting after meeting after meeting. And we know that causes high levels of cortisol and stress and heart rate variability, and it's why some of us wake up at 3:30 in the morning. I was having this incredible conversation last night, and was talking to a friend who's an experienced designer, and said, I structure long periods of time for creativity, and that's when I get my thinking and work done. And if we thought of those meetings and that meeting structure as an occupational health hazard, and art or creative time as the intervention or prescription for it, I wonder what would change in art.
I think we have a performance metric. Yeah, we can. So let me go on to next line of question, after which we'll probably open it up to audience questions. So if you guys want to ask something, start your noodles working. So all of you guys are all what I would call pro boundary spanners, right? You're all constantly with one foot in one discipline and one foot in another discipline, patients, doctors, what have you, right? And Susanna Fox, who was going to be on the panel, who couldn't be here, in an earlier conversation said to us that the 21st century is about building bridges between domains. I want to talk to you about that. Are there gaps between medical science and art, and how do we bridge them, is the question. And I'm kind of with Jessica on this. I think it begins early, K through 12. I don't think there should be any classes that are based on subject matters, just challenges. But I don't know. Maybe Yoko has a slightly different opinion, I might feel.
I still, that's a good idea. I'm still a believer of specialists, needed in some spaces. But that idea is really interesting. So yes, I'm very curious.
I mean, I think the answer is inherently. I mean, I imagine this group all probably agrees that yes, there's a gap there, and
so how do we bridge it?
I wish I had that magic wand. I think to pontificate for a second, I think we have to change our values. I think we have to change our values as an industry and as a society as a whole. Right now, healthcare exists to fix people when they are sick and unwell. If we switched a focus to value people living their best days as a definition of health, and we said that every community and every individual has that right, we'd have to also change our payment structure. We'd have to change our measurements of how we do healthcare, and the entirety of what we call healthcare would look very, very different. And I think it would have to include art. It would have to include making and creativity and valuing the whole person, as we've talked about earlier. I would love that kind of wholesale change, and that's the kind of future I want, so maybe it's where I'm wired to see. I think that would have that's a radical version as opposed to incremental steps to change little parts of it.
I just love that you use the term bridge. I think that in the work that we're doing to transform healthcare culture and healthcare experience, it is bridges that we're building. These are the synapses from head to heart. How do we actually create that connection? But we have to bridge and provide that infrastructure of bridging from high science, from hierarchy, which is what our industry is steeped in, to collaboration and partnership. And we create spaces to make that comfortable, push you out of the comfort zone, but in a place where it's okay. And as you were talking, especially in your thinking about this innovation space, I got to thinking, we host experience salons, and we have one called Connecting, and it is a bridge building salon in which we help people connect head and heart and different roles and different ideas, and nobody knows title when they come into this room. So it can be a neurosurgeon and a plumber and a food service worker and a nurse and a business office rep. And they were having to solve some of the most vexing challenges of this particular healthcare system. And one of those most vexing challenges, and you may have experienced this in any of your healthcare, was parking. So it had nothing really to do with healthcare, but it really is one of those exasperating, trying to park, get in on time, late for the appointment, didn't know where to go, all of that. And so we were doing these rapid idea sessions after, of course, we'd had some music and there had been some dance, and then they were rapid design. And the team that solved this parking challenge most artfully and most beautifully, when they introduced themselves at the end to each other, it was a neurologist, a plumber, and a food service worker. And they had all come from a very different perspective of their either what they'd had to do to solve that problem every time they were in the parking lot, or what they heard from patients, or whatever it was. And to think about that bridge too, that we don't have to have these silos of expertise, but this orchestration of everyone's talents coming together in different ways.
It's very interesting. Orchestra as a metaphor. I like that. I think Jessica had something.
Yeah, I love these ideas. For me, I think that what we need is to connect. And how? I think what I love about what you were just saying, Sonia, is that we do connect when we allow ourselves to. So we share problems, regardless of what occupation, status, cultural... regardless of where we're coming from, when we come together on a particular problem and are taken out of our own individual contexts and comfort zones and asked to just meet together at a common space, we're able to. It's not a problem. We just have to allow ourselves to do that. So if I could take would you permit me to go out of my role as scientist and
Absolutely.
musician?
Yes,
Can I be a
please.
yogi for a minute?
Please do. Yes.
What if we have the values that we need? We share them. What if we all want to be well and love each other and take care of each other? And what if we have the tools that we need? And what if what is needed is to just remove some of the obstacles to allowing them to be and unfold? I feel that creating bridges is one way of looking at it. Just allowing barriers to dissolve is another. You know? What if we consider that we have enough? We have what we need, and there's always innovation, and there's always more, and it's exciting, and it's wonderful. But that's understanding that and building and creating on the foundational premise that we're okay and we have enough. And that we are able to connect when we just allow it to happen. I think if I were to, if I were to dream up an answer to your question, that's what it is that we just need to allow ourselves to see the connections that already exist and just honor them.
Glad we gave you the space to dream. So I think we're at close to 15 minutes till the end of this session. Maybe at this point I'll open it up to questions from the audience. Do we have microphones around? Thank you. Tom is going to bring the microphone to
Check.
to people in the audience. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm in the pre-hospital care. I'm battalion chief south of Denver. I'm wondering if any of you have studied the experience prior to the hospital, from the patient's home into the ambulance and then the ride into the ED.
That's interesting. Did you hear that?
So we know that most things that happen to somebody don't happen in a clinic space. They don't happen in a hospital space. They happen at home. They happen when you're with your family, and your whole life really, the part of when you interact with healthcare is a very small sliver. When you were, Sonia, speaking about parking, way early on when we had opened our innovation team, we did a little bit of design work about arriving at the hospital. And for what we learned, at least for our community, was parking is the proverbial straw that sometimes breaks the camel's back, but it's the anxiety of knowing I've got to come in, and is this MRI going to show if I have cancer or not? Is this surgery going to be painful? Am I going to have trouble with anesthesia? Am I going to get lost on the way there? Am I going to miss my appointment? It's all of those things, that fear and anxiety that start a week, a month, a day before you leave your house. And that's a really pragmatic, focused example. But I think for people that live with a chronic condition, it's a whole different world. Then all of your care happens at your house and in your home. And that's not a space that we actually are privy to. And it's a really interesting and humbling thought to have.
I would just like to say thank you for what you do. That's hard work. And one of the things that we're doing and the organizations we're working with is taking that journey all the way back to the providers that are in the field, that are the first people, first responders, and coming together as a collective to map that journey and then to begin to imagine and design those moments that could be designed a little bit differently. We brought in a memory researcher, actually, interestingly enough, to help us understand how memories are formed in times of high anxiety and high emotion, which often those ambulance rides or the surgery or the wait for a loved one are those moments of high anxiety, which means we have the potential of having this be a lifelong lasting memory that we can recall in an instant. And many of us have those in healthcare. And we can go back, years and years and remember what somebody said and what they were wearing, and it was orange juice that they gave me, all the little details. And so we're spending time now really in that space of understanding that memories are being made and formed, and the little pieces that we might be able to add to that to contribute to a positive memory, even in a very difficult time, which I would say people like you and your teams are the ones that are doing extraordinary jobs of providing that comfort and healing in a really scary time. So thank you.
Next question. Thank you, Tom.
Hi, my name is Terry Scott Mitchell. First and foremost, I want to thank you for coming together collectively. Yoko, thank you so much. Arigato. I recently took over the care of my mother who has dementia. This after the loss of my father, a marriage of 48 years with my mom. So his transition, my taking over, the work that you do, could you weigh in, Yoko, Nick, and also Jessica, the caregiver, and how your work, and perhaps a lead on the work that you do and the caregiver. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to begin. That's very important work. And I will tell you, I'm not in the healthcare profession, so I will just briefly give my perspective, but it might be a way to conceptualize it, to think about it. And I hope, and my goal is that this way of thinking will infiltrate the healthcare system in general. The way I look at that relationship, you're describing a relationship, basically. And so I use a term, in my writing, I talk about a term called entrainment. Entrainment being that what draws us together. So what draws two individuals together, or a group collectively, or what draws me individually to a piece of music or a piece of art. And the way when I examine, when I have this kind of special opportunity to think about how we care for one another, I think about the opportunities that we have and the supports that we have to become entrained to one another. And when we take over the care of a loved one, especially under such circumstances, it's creating an entirely new relationship than probably the one you ever had before. It can feel like starting over. And there's a lot of loss in that, and yet you're still living together. And so how do you create and share life together? And so when I think about what music does for us together, and you can see where I'm leading this too, is it allows us to be together in time, in emotion, regardless of circumstances. And so in the case of someone who's at home caring for a loved one, or in a hospital or healthcare setting, the introduction of music or of art can allow us a space to be together. And that, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're just being together, you know? We're sharing that space. And so we can find, there are leads to how to bring music and art into that relationship, to how to redefine and recreate that relationship and make it one that grows and that lasts for the duration of that time. And I believe that there are very simple ways to introduce that into the healthcare setting, exactly the ways in which Yoko is working. And it doesn't require very much. We have the tools. It's free. And we have what we need, you know? It doesn't have to be complicated. And so I think that there are resources out there, but that's my suggestion. That's how I think about it, is that we're constantly living relationships and we're trying to live peacefully together and care for one another. And that is where music and art, I think, have a very important role.
One story that came to my mind was, so I did a project last year around this idea of sound people wish to hear at the end of life. And when I was interviewing lots of people, there was one person who gave me this story that, I always, so some people say hearing is the last sense to go when we die. So the theme was, what's the last sound you wish to hear? And this lady said, I always had this idea that when my mother was dying, she was still able to hear, and I was playing the music, but I was never completely sure. But after coming to this project, now she can believe that her mother was actually listening to what she was playing. Whether or not that's true, now that's the story that she takes with herself. So when you're talking about caregivers' perspective, that story really touched me. When my grandmother was near the end of life, and she was not really able to respond, but by way of holding hand, when I spoke to her, I had this sense that she must be listening to me now. So, yeah, that's just a story. Thank you.
Tom, let's do one more question, and I want to go to this young lady here who's had her hand up.
Hi, my name is Nilofer. I'm just about to graduate from medical school. Now working at the World Bank, so that's a bit of a detour. I lost my mother to cancer 3 years ago, age of 49, and I found solace in spoken word poetry. I'm a spoken word artist myself, and that got me involved in medical humanities. Spent a lot of time researching medical humanities. My question to you today is, how do we teach medical humanities to medical students? One thing we struggle with as med students is that, yes, we embrace the idea of using music and art and all of that in our education, but we're still struggling to make the clinical, I would say, for lack of a better word, relevance to what we do. I'm a convert, so I'm convinced, but I do struggle in my mission to convince my fellow peers that this is something worthwhile, just like anatomy and physiology classes. So how do we teach medical humanities to med students? Thank you.
Great question.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because we were just describing that when we met each other today, because I was hoping that Jessica, being a professor and at a medical school, that she was going to begin to infuse this as part of curriculum. And I think that's really where we're all aiming. And it's not just at medical curriculum, but again, how do we start younger, that we've got younger kids that are bringing this together, but how do we also, in our medical curriculum, our learners like you, we know how rigorous that experience is for you, and that people do bring this beautiful sense of art and humanities, and they want to create these connections in their medicine, but it's not built into the curriculum yet. And we have a responsibility to work with organizations to help them see anew. When we work with physicians and clinicians much later in their career and they learn this, they say, why did I have to wait until I was a leader of a unit or a division to have to learn this work? It would have changed everything from the start. So Nick probably does as well. We are working with, quite frankly, some of the newer medical schools, those that are newly established, that are creating different curriculum and doing things a little bit differently. But they're standouts right now in terms of what they're doing and also how they're partnering with their EMT partners and bringing that all in the middle. So I don't think I have a perfect answer, but I do know we're working hard to infuse that into the curriculum from day one, as well as from the application process.
Just two things to underscore there. We've been teaching this idea of design that's very creative and artistic, like we've been talking about, to med students at Stanford, and have found that everybody comes to it. And Jessica, to your point, they say this is not just a way that I'm drawn to. I love the collaboration. I love making things with other people. I love the part of understanding the patient's perspective or getting the empathy that I didn't have. And then the worst thing happens. They go out into the world and they go into their residency, and somebody who's 20 or 30 years their senior says, you don't do that on my watch. And we're convinced that this is a long play and that doctors like you will change the world, and it'll be this slow stream through the mountains cutting away at the stone. But I think there's also this idea of thinking more broadly about who we attract to medicine.
Absolutely.
And Harvard
Absolutely.
did this incredible study where they looked at liberal arts students who went to med school, and it turns out they performed just as well and in many cases better. And this notion that you have to come from a STEM background to be good at medicine is probably taking away a lot of the art of medicine. So.
Well, I think you're right, and that art of medicine is so vital. And I have on my team many pre-med, master's prepared scientists who did not get into their first round of medical school, found our work and have never gone back to medical school. I think that's actually really sad because I love them working with us, but they're very suited for bringing something different. They have the science and they have this artful way of looking at their work. So hopefully we'll be able to get that into that application and selection process.
I would just add briefly to that. I love this idea, and I think one of the things that we're learning from current neuroscience research is that artistic and creative ability are akin to intelligence. In other words, these are not just sideshow abilities. You know, they don't just make somebody well-rounded. They make an individual smarter and more capable. So we're coming to understand, and I think science is getting there, and I think society will get there, of this understanding of how we define intelligence and capability. And a qualified medical student would be someone who demonstrates intelligence via these activities. In other words, what we're understanding about the way that the brain works is that it's not as narrow as maybe what we once thought. So if we really want to understand intelligence and high optimal functioning, this is going to be part of it.
Just to hook onto that for just a quick second.
Real quick.
Okay, yeah. The Obama administration had this incredible understanding of technology that they gained through trial and error related to the healthcare.gov failing. And they said, from now on, we need to make sure there is tech quotient in the room. Somebody who understands technology, not just from this server does this, but here's what technology could do, and that informs how they solve the problem. And it makes me think if we had structures where we said we value not just business savvy, but not just tech savvy, but we need to have artistic savvy in the room. We need some kind of creative quotient, and that's a balanced scorecard, to use our industry term, right? Would be a really incredible model.
I think that's a fantastic place to leave it. So, hey, how about a round of applause for our panelists? Thank you. Thank you all.
And I'm sure you had more questions you wanted to ask, or comments or feedback. So what we are going to do is we have a wonderful social media staff. Amita, are you here today? Yes, that's Amita. So our Twitter account is at Sen Sound Space. It's SEN Sound Space, one word. So if you'd tweet your questions and comments to any of the panelists, we'll also be sure to connect all of us together on Twitter so we can continue this conversation after today. But it's been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And now, please welcome Yoko K back to the stage.
Hi, my name is Yoko. I am an electronic musician exploring sound and emotion. I started the piano when I was 3. I hear any sound as a musical note. A while ago, I got sick and went to the emergency room. I was terrified by the sound of alarms in such dissonance. Lying on a hospital bed, I wondered, why does it have to be this way? Could it be better? So I started to talk to people about the experience with sound in hospitals.
Everything was loud and alarming and
very annoying.
Not at ease, let's put it that way. It was taking a stressful situation and making it a little worse.
Gives the patients anxiety. Definite wear on our nervous system.
I guess I would say alarm fatigue is it's a desensitization to the various warning alarms that go off in the hospital, simply because there are so many that are constantly going off.
From telemetry, chair alarms, bed alarms, IV pumps, and just basic code alarms that as a nurse and having 4 to 6 patients on the floor, it's just hard to really get to each alarm.
But just like the boy who cried wolf, when they are continually alarming and going off, they become easy to ignore as well. It's a lot to take in. You become normalized to it, though.
And the most we might hope for within those walls is numbness. Anesthetic. Literally the opposite of aesthetic. If teasing unnecessary suffering out of the system was our first design cue, then tending to dignity by way of the senses, by way of the body, the aesthetic realm is design cue number 2.
I sampled this sound into this sampler connected to Ableton Live, emergency alarm, cardiac monitor. This tone, if I I play on keyboard, it's like that. It's a dissonance. What if I tuned some of these into maybe this, make it to F major tuned? Same sound, just different tuning. Already, this is better, this is harmonious. It didn't take a lot, it's just a tuning of each sound. But this is just my idea. This is, as a sound artist, what I think would be a good solution. But what about other people? What do people want? So in this project, I like to interview a lot of people, patients, families, doctors, nurses, asking them what kind of sound do they want to hear in hospitals? What do they wish to feel in hospitals? other day, I was at an intensive care unit of Sibley Memorial Hospital, where Nick is the director of the Innovation Hub. And it was at night. I was doing a research, listening to all the alarms, sound, noise. And this poop, sound was there. And at night, they dimmed the light after 10 o'clock, so it was pretty dark. Few lights of monitors, and people are running around, knowing exactly what they need to do. And it felt like a spaceship for a while, because like on airplane, you hear this kind of sound, right? Like a boom, and it was dark. And I just imagined hospital being like a spaceship. So that was the music we just did. My name is Yoko. I am an ambient electronic musician, and this is Nicola. Oops. This is a little error. Excuse me. And this is John. John is doing all the videos today. So that's us. And how are you? Thank you. I'm really glad you're all here today. How many of you went to a March of Science today? Yeah, great. So, several years ago I was sick, and I had to spend many hours in hospitals. I'm a sound artist, so I'm really sensitive to the sound, and I was really scared of all the sound that was around me. As I was sharing earlier, some people say hearing is the last sense to go when we die. So I used to think, lying on a hospital bed, what is the last sound I get to hear at the end of my life? Is it like this? Oh, right? Unnecessary noise is the cruelest absence of care. That's what Nightingale said more than 100 years ago. And still today, we are bombarded with all the noise, that much of that we don't really need. Like, take this alarm sound, for example. So this is that's a high-pitched F sharp, yeah? What's this one? So play together. Nicola, what is this?
It's the devil in music, I believe.
It's
a tritone.
I mean, it's really cool. I love dissonance. I love tritone. But, if it's done intentionally, artistically, it's nice. But imagine this is all you hear, and it doesn't resolve. And this is like a last note of, your music, your life. It's like Steve Jobs was, in a hospital, and he was dying, and a nurse was bringing him this oxygen mask, right? And he was already kind of losing it, but he had to wake up. And he said, that oxygen mask is really ugly. I'm not going to put that on my face. That's just ugly. So that was me. Like, I'm not a Steve Jobs, but I was like, I can't just leave. Like, this is not acceptable, right? And luckily, I got better. When you have an illness, and for a while, a few years of your life, that, oh wow, everything I dreamed that could happen in my life, it might not happen anymore. Like, this is it. And after a while, I got better. Like, well, I got lucky. So this part of my life, I feel like it's kind of a bonus that I should kind of do anything. So I applied to this program in a place called Halcyon House, and I was applying for arts program, but there was some mistake and I got into a business program. So initially I was going to do more of a, sort of a symbolic conceptual piece to have people think about the importance of sound environment. But in this program, they bombarded me with all the resources, like free lawyers, place to live, mentors, investors, pitch sessions. So, okay, now I guess I'm solving this now. So that's kind of what we are. I started a company called Sen Sound, and luckily Nick opened the door. We are working with Sibley Memorial Hospital's Innovation Hub. And with Sonia, advisory board company, we are also working, and with the growing team, we are really trying to transform the sound environment in hospitals. So that's what we do. Thank you. Thank you. So Jessica was just talking how music can bring us together. And since, we've been sitting for a while, maybe we can stretch a little bit. Are you in the mood of singing? Yes? Singing a little bit? Let's sing, yeah? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Nicola can help us. Let me see. La 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 la. All right. So it's very, very easy. La 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 la. Okay. No. Can you hear me now? Great. Switch was off, and now the switch is on. So, how are you? Good, good, good. So I do lots of talks, and in those talks I talk, right? And I show slides, and everything is scripted, and I talk. And I was supposed to do that today, but when we were rehearsing music and video, somehow that just didn't feel right, you know? Like there's this sort of a sense of time that shifts when music happens. So I don't know what I'm going to talk about. What should I do? What should I talk about? Music. Music is the voice I hear, so we might just play music. Thank you. I'll talk just a little bit, actually, because we are walking a lot. And so some of the work we get to do at Siburi Memorial Hospital, which is 15 minutes away. We did a research with patients and staff members. And before this work, I did some residency at this design consulting firm called IDEO. And I got exposure to human-centered design, so we use that method to try to understand how sound and noise affects our environment and emotions and experience. So it's a little bit, less about, hey, I'm an artist, can I just come in your place and do this thing? We are actually going into the hospital space to talk to the people, to learn from people before we create anything. One of the questions that we asked was, walk me through all the sounds you hear in this room of a hospital. What sound is most disturbing to you? What about you? Like, how many of you have ever been to a hospital? Everyone? Did you like what you hear in the hospital? No. Was it annoying? What was most annoying to you? Can you shout?
When I had my chemotherapy,
TVs. TV was awful. Yeah. You always brought music. Music. Right, drift away, that's right. Yeah. Especially in hospital, there's always this like a daytime TV of like people shouting at each other. It's like, wow, like really, yeah, soap opera, yeah. Anything else? Anything disturbing? High-pitched beeping, exactly. Right. Yeah. A few weeks ago, I got interviewed by a fast company, and it's one of those interviews that, I'm on the phone with a journalist, and I was so not articulate that when I hung up, I was very sure that she was not going to write anything about it, because she was like, okay, so what's your business dream, like 3 years from now? And I was like, I don't know. This is already kind of a dream right now. I don't really know what I need to wish. She's like, okay. It's like, oh, I didn't do it really well. And she wrote a really nice article. But when the article came out, lots of people contacted me. And there are lots of researchers out there who have been very passionately working on this issue of alarm fatigue, how the noisy environment affects our recovery. So it's just interesting that as an artist, what can I do in this space that people are working really hard? And obviously, everybody wants this to change. Who wants to hear that? And there are ways that we can keep it safe, but keep it more quiet. So we are exploring that. One of the researches we do is at the intensive care unit. We measure the noise level. We talk to patients, family members. So in human-centered design, one of the things people talk about is to learn from extreme users and extreme scenarios. In the healthcare, one extreme scenario is the end of life, palliative care. So I decided to go back to my first question that I started, which was, what is the last sound I wish to hear at the end of life? So last year I got to work with an open IDEO and Stanford Medicine X to interview more than hundreds of people with this question, and we gathered the voices of people telling the story. So I wanted to take a moment here and ask you this question. If you'd, just kind of reflect, close your eyes if you like, you don't need to, for a moment. And not this to be kind of a scary exercise, but really kind of a playful way almost. If this could be anything that you choose, anything, but not the alarm, but anything, what is the last sound you wish to hear at the end of your life?
The last sound I want to hear at the end of life is the first sound I heard at the beginning of life.
The last sound I wish to hear in my life would be a gentle breeze through the trees.
Or being on a mountainside and hearing the wind go past.
The ocean waves hitting the beach.
The crash of waves.
The water.
Why do you think water?
It's life. It's movement.
It's transformative.
Genetically calming. I think we've slept by water.
Is like their happy place.
So the last thing I want to hear before I die would be, I love you. It's kind of cheesy, but that's probably one of the best sounding things I could think of right now.
Every illness is a love story. The love is surrounding illness because it takes something away from someone who's hurting.
The last sound I would wish to hear is the voice of a loved one around me. To know that they were there for me in those last moments.
Is the voice of my loved ones.
Loved ones having connected human moment, even if it's not with me.
Sound of my friends and family talking about all the good experiences we had in life.
The last sound that I'd like to hear is my sister playing the violin.
It's my children. It's just so easy to say that.
My mother's voice.
If I could hear the sound of my mom laughing as I was passing on, because she's already passed on, it would be the completion of a long-held belief that she's with me every single day, profoundly connected to me, watching, waiting.
I would like to hear the voices of all the people that I love one by one, saying something that makes them happy.
Lullaby and a bedtime song.
Going off to sleep and just relaxed and safe.
As I fall asleep, yeah.
that you know you're feeling felt by another person as you leave.
The last sound I'd like to hear at the end of my life is some sort of validation that my life was meaningful.
You were important. What you did mattered to lots of people. You left a statistically significant mark on the human condition.
The last sound I wish to hear at the end of life is toilet flushing.
The last sound I wish to hear is my husband's fart.
The last sound that I wish to hear before I die is laughter.
I would love to hear laughter, because I think that joy is what I want to carry with me out into what comes next.
And not that recorded sitcom laugh or the polite laugh you might give your boss, but more of that completely euphoric expression of happiness and joy. And if I could hear that from a group of people around me in my final moments, and if I was even able to partake in that laughter, I think that would be perfection. And the morning is what, that feeling of possibility is actually what I would want to have at the end of my life. The feeling that I'm waking up to something new. And that's why I would love to hear the morning bird song at the end of my life.
Big engine starting. It's almost like a crescendo in music for me to hear that, like this awakening of a machine that is so powerful.
Really loud and pushing my body to kind of feel it. I want something that allows my body to feel that beat and let that beat be sort of my departure.
Because the universe has a sense of humor.
The last sound that I would like to hear is something that I've never heard of before, that I've never imagined before.
Love is not love. Picture the moment when the sunset light no longer makes its flickering silhouette. Would we walk alone in a shadowless dark? No Orion in the midnight sky. Not even moon shadows to say as if
Fly with you.
It's me. Unnecessary noise. Sorry. And how are you? All right. That's good. That's good. That's good. So another extreme case is a beginning of life, of course. So last year we did an end of life, and this year we are starting to explore the sound for the beginning of life. And Alexis is in the audience, and we are very excited to and collaborate with Jessica to first use babies who are at the beginning of life to see what kind of sound could make people feel soothed. So that's what we are up to, and we are also building a team to explore the technology to help improve the sound environment so that we can scale our impact to other hospitals, and we'll be excited to work with Sonia, Nick, everybody here. The songs we did, and Ian, who is in the audience, also known as Nature Rage, he did many of the beats, and he's a cool beat, mixed beat, he DJs, so that's Ian right there. Thank you, Ian. And the song, Love Is Not Love, the lyrics was written by Dr. Martin Irvine, who is also in the audience. Thank you, Martin, for the words. Thank you. I wanted to thank Nicola and John. And not here today, Shuhei Matsu. Oh, yes, Nicola and John. And many of the visual elements you saw today was done by a Japanese artist, Shuhei Matsuyama, also known as Mega Sleepyhead. So that's our team. We are going to have a really exciting show on June 3rd at Halcyon House, which is about 10 minutes away from here. It's a really beautiful place where ideas to solve the 21st century problem are being incubated. And we are going to create a 22nd century where everything worked out just fine with this, immersive visual projection and things like that. So you can go to our website. It's www.yoko.mu, and you can find the information there. I wanted to thank all of my team, and Tom, Yvonne, Amita, Grayson, everybody who is helping Sen Sound. That's the name of our company. And Avery, my husband and co-moderator, and all the wonderful panelists, Nick and Jessica, Sonia. Thank you so much for being a part of us today. Thank you. And everybody at Kennedy Center, the sound, lighting, tech people, they were here from like 11 o'clock this morning. And, it's like us on stage, but there are lots of work that gets into making something like this happen. So I really wanted to thank everybody at Kennedy Center. Thank you very much. And everybody, thank you so much for coming. Thank you. My list is really long, but my time is only 1 more minute. So I guess I'm supposed to stop, but I have one more song. Should I stop? Do I have time for one more? Is it yes or no? Yes? I think Kennedy Center people say no, but we're just going to do it, yeah? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Nika, John, thank you so much.